I am an analyst at Nico Partners, and we are primarily a market intelligence and consultancy firm. And I oversee the India games market, and I also support the business development efforts of our company. So I've been with Nico for the past 5 years, started as an intern back in 2018 when I was still, an undergrad. And what I have found interesting, in my work is, and also on a personal level, is understanding things at a deeper level, how puzzles fits together. So it's not just specific to gaming, but other fields as well. So that is something that drives me as an analyst. All right. What does Nico Partners do? So we are a 20-plus-year-old market intelligence firm, and our USP is simple. We help gaming companies or any stakeholder in the industry, help them navigate the markets better at a deeper level. We understand that when you're trying to enter a market, there are various factors that need to go into consideration when approaching your business strategies, and that's where we specialize. We started off in around 2001, started covering the China games market. Our focus currently is on Asia and the Middle East and North Africa region. We cover 14 markets over there. And these are some of the ways we help businesses, including the likes of publishers, developers, government, helping them, formalize strategies and policies on a national level, hardware manufacturers, component and chipset makers, even associations like IGDC itself. So we've been in the industry for a while. Our focus has always been video games. We've got what we kind of have understood in our 2 decades of work in Asia is that every market is very different from each of them is very different. So what you need to understand is how those economies by themselves have grown over a period of time, and not just the gamers over there. You need to have a more insight on a ground level, because these markets are diverse in terms of religions, in terms of languages, in terms of cultures, in terms of socio-economic backgrounds of people belonging to those markets. And that's where we specialize. We've got on-the-ground analysts across 14 markets that we currently cover. China, 6 markets in Southeast Asia, 3 markets in East Asia, including Japan, Korea, and Chinese Taipei, India, and we recently expanded 4 years ago to the Middle East and North Africa region, covering the 3 major markets over there, which are UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. Now, we survey gamers throughout the year. We publish market reports. We've got our on-the-ground analysts. They speak in and out with gaming companies in those local markets. They try and understand regulations over there, and that's what we have built our entire research on. Again, these are the markets that I just mentioned that we're covering currently. Now, we published the 3rd edition of our India Video Games Yearly Market this year, and this is specific to 2023 from January to December. And India is an exciting market, all of us know that. It's the fastest growing market in what we call Asia 10, and Asia 10 is a club of 10 markets, including 6 markets that I will come to in the next slides. In Southeast Asia, again, East Asia, and India. Now, what you see on the screen is just an infographic from the report that we published back in August for the first half, and our projections are until December 2023. As you can see, we estimate the market size to be at a value of 868 million. Now, revenue over here includes player spends on IAPs, subscriptions, premium game sales, and this excludes RMG and export of games. We expect the India market to grow at a 5-year 17.2 CAGR and reach 1.58 billion by 2027. Also, what's interesting is, we've got a huge population. We just overtook China and became the most populous country in the world. We have a huge gamer population that currently stands at 444 million, which is expected to grow at 641.2 million by 2027. Now, these are all huge numbers. What I want to do in the coming slides is, dive a bit deeper into what these gamers are, what demographics they represent, draw some parallels, because we've been covering the video games industry in Asia for the past 20 years. So we've literally seen, markets grow from very small revenue to becoming global powerhouses. Let's compare ourselves with our neighbors. And this is an interesting one because there are a lot of parallels over here. China, obviously, they grew on the back of, a very large population. When we started tracking them in 2001, the market was valued under 100 million USD. And what we've seen is that in the past 2 decades, we've seen the likes of Tencent and NetEase, which are some of the largest companies in the world, grow out of that market. And the growth was primarily driven by factors like, rising middle class, rising income of people, rising consumption expenditure, and not just specific to gaming, but overall. You can see that we've tried to project growth of gamers through 2017 to 2027. And if you look at the comparison between the two nations, China being much of a more mature market, also it accounts for almost 1/3 of the world's gaming market revenue. We see that in India, there is a crazy growth trajectory, where we see gamers growing from 144 million in 2017 at a rate of 343% and growing to 641 million in 2027. Compared to China, they'll grow at 21% from 2017 to 27 to 729 million. What's interesting over here is that even though we have a huge gamer population, the average revenue per user is very low. And that's been, the most challenging challenging point for any business in the industry in India. Even in 2027, if we compare the two markets, China's average revenue per user across segments, be it PC, mobile, or console, will be 35 times higher than that of India. Now, let's take a look at, how India stacks against some of the emerging markets. And we club 6 markets into what we call C6, and they represent the fastest growing markets in that region. These are Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, Singapore, Philippines, and Malaysia. But again, there are parallels that you can draw from here. We started initially covering the Southeast Asia market as a club around 2010, when it was valued at around under $1 billion. And now, currently in 2023, we estimate the market value to be 5.8 billion. There are common growth drivers in India and all these 6 Southeast Asian markets, which are, they're all emerging markets where consumption in general is rising. They have a mobile gamer first segment. There have been regulatory changes in these markets which have impacted their growth. And the age of these gamers is also huge. which is in parallel with India as well. What's important to note over here is that even though, we're higher up in revenue, in revenue when it comes to comparing some of these markets, Singapore, Philippines, and Malaysia, and we're close to Vietnam, and we'll overtake Indonesia and Thailand in terms of mobile games revenue by 2025. All of these markets are very unique in themselves. They have a different populace. The way they have grown as economy is again very different, and hence a unique approach is very important when you're trying to build businesses out into these markets. You need to understand what gamers want, what the gamer persona looks like, how the consumption is driven in general in these markets. So this is just a brief timeline in chronology of how some of the important events that have taken place in the last 12, 13 years. Now obviously India did not start growing as a market in 2010, right? We all grew up playing games earlier than that. But around 2010 and until then, what was happening, gaming was more accessible to wealthy individuals who could have access to PC and consoles. Then we saw that games got digitized over a period of time. Internet cafes with high-end PC gaming started becoming more popular. College students started going to cafes to play FIFA or CS:GO, something that I've also done during my school time. Then in 2016, we saw that Jio came in, and that led to a spike in internet consumption. Along with that, we saw that there was a rollout of cheap or reasonable smartphones that drove the growth in the market. In around 2018, we all know that until then, MOBA was the genre that was driving the revenue in the mobile games industry, but we saw PUBG Mobile and Free Fire coming in, and that changed a few more things. Still, there was a challenge with how to monetize Indian gamers. And it is still a big question that most of the companies pose to us. We saw that companies came up with the RMG model after that, and esports and live streaming picked up in 2019. And 2022 had a few significant things that happened in that year. Firstly, the most popular game that had picked up in the last 2 years until 2020 were PUBG Mobile, Mobile Legends Bang Bang, and Arena of Valor. All of them got banned. This significantly had an impact on the overall revenue of the market. And at the same time, we saw that since people were locked up in their homes during COVID, right, they were spending more time on their phones, tablets, or consoles. Hence, we saw a spike or a hike in the number of gamers and the overall revenue in the market. Then there were a couple of years, 2021 and 2022, where we saw PUBG came in as BGMI, then got banned again, and India finally surpassed 400 million gamers in 2022. Now 2023, that is where we are currently, is kind of an important year because it marks a year where the government has actively took interest and recognized the possibilities that gaming can create for the entire economy, and not just in terms of domestic production, which will grow over the next 5 and 10 years, but also in terms of exports. And we also saw the two most popular titles coming back as well, BGMI and Free Fire. All right, so this is a snapshot. We'll cover these points in much more detail, but I want to give you an overview of the entire report and how we go about, conducting the research and what is included in this report. So our methodology primarily includes, market model that we have created for India and as well as for all the other markets that we cover, which projects number of revenue and gamers through 5-year growth. The second thing is we place our own surveys throughout the year for every market. So we've got insights into understanding how, what gamer preferences look like, how they prefer spending, what does the Indian gamer actually look like, and how much time does he prefer spending on games, how do they engage with esports, and stuff like that. The report also has, growth projections across mobile, PC, and console segments for the next 5 years. Also, we analyze in depth the trends that are driving these growth, some of the hindrances, what is the importance of localization in a country like India, what is the importance of esports in the ecosystem, right, and how gamers are engaging with it. We all are aware of this, 96.8% of the current gamer populace engages through mobile gaming, and smartphone penetration and high internet consumption, cheap internet has driven the growth so far. Current smartphone penetration is around 53%. You add the increasing internet penetration, which is around 50 to 60% in India. Once this grows, we'll see that more and more gamers will be added to the entire ecosystem. And what we've seen, what we project is in 2023, the India mobile games market is expected to grow in terms of revenue at a 9.8% year on year. Now, this is a slower growth rate compared to last year. And this was much expected due to post-COVID dip when, gamers got people started going outside their homes and they had more things to do apart from gaming in general. And we also saw, games being banned. That had an impact on the market. If you look at India as a consumer of mobile game downloads, it's the largest market in the world. In H1 2023, the first half of the year, there were 4.6 billion downloads. To put this into context, this is twice the size of the number of mobile game downloads in the US, which is the second largest market for mobile game downloads. Now, another driving factor for the mobile game industry in India, also not just the mobile game industry, but the entire ecosystem, is Battle Royale and the amount of revenue it brings in. So in 2023 alone, we project that Battle Royale will account for 39% of the revenue of mobile games, but this is lesser than last year. Player spending significantly reduced by 18%. Why did this happen? Again, because of game bans. But what we have seen is, since BGMI came back around June, in the 3 months leading to August 31st, we've seen a jump by 24% in mobile games revenue, and compared to the 3 months ending May 31st. So that's a significant impact a game can have if it is doing well in a market. We expect the mobile games revenue to, cross 1 billion by 2026, primarily driven by, the launch of new titles and, year-on-year growth of some of the titles like FIFA Mobile and Royal Match. And also, the 2 major games are back now. India is a very young country, we all know that, but what does a young country mean? It means that it represents a fair and a majority portion of our current workforce. 65% of people in India are under the age of 35. And what we have found out from our surveys and study is that 75% of gamers are under the age of 35. Now, these young gamers, or you may call them youth gamers, their gaming behavior is quite different from their older counterparts. For example, since gamers in these era were born, no, hang on. Okay, so since if you look at gamers under the age of 25, they've got shorter attention span. They grew up in an era where they weren't exposed to TV ads. They had the option of, skipping ads. And we see the same happening with gamers under the age of 25 today. So ad monetization becomes tougher for developers and publishers in that case. We also see that the younger the gamers are, if they are a PC gamer and up to a certain extent mobile gamer, what happens is they prefer spending on stuff like skins and cosmetics. And if you look at the demographic that is above 31, then you see that those people prefer spending on stuff that gives them in-game advantage. A few other things that gamers want in India currently and they are willing to spend on and they are spending on it is Indian gamers want good gameplay at the end of the day, be it any kind of game. So 41% of them spend on making their gameplay much better. In mobile games, what we have seen is a rise of spending on in-app purchases for battle passes. And in 2023, we expect that of the 444 million gamers that there are in India, which is roughly around 120 million, they are going to be spending on games. Now, what we've also found out is that there's a positive correlation between the income of the gamer and what they're spending on it, and the time that they spend on, the more time that a gamer spends on a game, they're more likely to spend money on it. Another interesting finding that we had was that across mobile, PC, and console, the average revenue per user obviously skews towards console, followed by PC and then mobile. But the growth rates is inverse. In the next 5 years, we expect that mobile gamers will drive the growth in the country because they form the major chunk of the entire population, and they are going to grow at the highest rate, followed by PC gamers and console gamers. All right, I'll come back to the previous slide, and this is an important demographic that we've been covering extensively for the past 2 years. And what we've realized is that companies usually miss out on this demographic by not understanding how and what female gamers prefer that they're targeting. What we've seen in India, that female gamers stood at 43% of the entire gaming population, and this has grown from 36%. Now, this is a significant jump, although this is not still at parity, and Southeast Asia market, if you look at them, there is parity between the ratio of male to female gamers. Now, the major driving factors of rising popularity of female gamers is in general, the rising popularity of the gaming ecosystem itself. The taboo around gaming is going away. More and more people are looking at it as a career now, right? Female gamers, when they're influenced by what things that they're influenced by to play a game or to spend a game, they are very different from that of men. They they like to get recommendations from their friends. They like to get recommendations from influencers or stuff they see on social media. Over here, you can see that the average gaming hours for both male and female gamers is almost the same. The male gamers spend around 7 hours across all gaming segments, and females spend around 6.9. However, the genres they try to that interest them most is casual and puzzle at the moment, and card games. We've also seen on a domestic level, some push for the inclusion of the demographic, like female-only esports tournaments being hosted by Sky Esports, and those are good ways to onboard more female gamers, because that's a demographic. If you don't target, you're leaving out on revenue as a company. Now, esports plays a very important role in any gaming market. There are two major reasons for that, right? It brings in more eyeballs, right? Which leads to a higher onboarding of gamers into the ecosystem. The current global esports market is valued around 1.3 billion, but Asia accounts for more than half of it. Now, if you come to Asia market itself, Asia 10, and also include China in that, 60% of the esports market is owned by China. And you can see that India has the smallest portion of all of them at 22.3 million. That's around 3%. So even though it's a small market, the number of gamers engaging with esports in general is very high. We've got the second highest esports fans across the globe, second only to China, and the revenue for 2023 is expected to grow at 7.2%. Now, if you look closely at the esports tournaments that are hosted in India, we've got this tool called Esports Tracker, where we look at tournaments, we look at sponsors, we look at hosts, we look at what kind of games these tournaments are being hosted for, what is the prize money, where they are being hosted, whether they are online or offline. And what we have found out is that most number of tournaments are hosted for mobile games. And again, obviously, they are driven by the two major titles and the BR genre in general. Now, when the game got banned, there was a significant dip in the number of tournaments and total prize money in the ecosystem. And this shows you, when an entire ecosystem depends on a few titles, and if they are taken down for any particular reason, it will have an impact on the general growth of the market. But since the game has come back, 5 months now, 20 plus professional tournaments have been announced. If you compare the prize pool for tournaments hosted for PC and mobile, you'll see that the ratio, the difference between the ratios is much smaller, right? But for Valorant, which was in H1 the highest grossing esports title, they hosted only 5 tournaments, and the total prize money for Valorant was around 200K compared to that of BGMI that stood at 180K. Now, we expect BGMI to overtake that in the second half of the year, but it shows you that, if a game developer or publisher puts in efforts to create, puts in efforts into marketing, such as Riot has done so far, by the introduction of, Harbor as a local character, or maybe it's partnerships with influencers in the market, it can create a huge impact on the on the total revenue of the game. Now, one of our partners, Stream Charts, sent across some data. We partnered with them recently to understand what are the streaming trends in Asia, in East Asia, Southeast Asia, and India. And again, you see that around 45% of people in India, they like to consume content around the BR genre. But what you'll also see is that GTA and Valorant are right there on the top 6 list. Again, mainly Valorant is driven by its popularity in the esports segment. Now, Indian streaming market is unique by itself. Obviously, YouTube is the most popular platform, and Twitch and Facebook gaming have their presence. But we've seen the rise of Loco and Router in the past few years. And now there are new entrants in the market, such as Geo Games. What we also see is that local languages also play an important role in the market. We see tournaments being hosted in several languages, and they're garnering decent viewership at the same time. Some of those languages are Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, and Malayalam. Hindi being the primary language that gamers prefer to consume content in. Localization in general is very important to a market like India or other markets as well, but I'll speak about more about India over here. What we have found out from our survey is that 2 out of 3 gamers believe that that some aspect of localization should be within the game. Over here, one thing we need to take into consideration is that the topmost priority for a gamer is to have a good gameplay. He enjoys the entire game. And when we speak about localization, what it incorporates is stuff like, in-game themes, the character, the music, the voice chats, and the text as well. Another interesting finding that we had was that voice chat is the most popular across mobile, PC, and console gamers. Some good localization examples that have fared well in India are, the introduction of the Indian faction in Road to Valor Empires. And we saw that the week they introduced the faction, there was a 1,000+% growth in number of downloads and almost 400% growth in revenue, which was sustained in the second week as well. BGMI introduced 2 different voice packs from popular streamers in India, from Mortal and Thug, in Hindi and Tamil respectively. Overall, what's a key takeaway would be, for any game that is entering the market is to understand that you can't just, bring all these elements together and put the game in front of a gamer, because it wouldn't work. What the gamer wants at the end of the day is a good gameplay, and that should be the primary focus. And once that is achieved, you can introduce other elements that might work for your target audience. Now, regulations are, important to any industry, including the gaming industry itself in India. They make or break, the entire market. What we have seen is that the Indian government has finally recognized the value it can achieve by investing in the ecosystem more, be it on creating an export economy out of it, or pushing for a regulatory structure that helps businesses come into the country and function very smoothly. We saw that the government also provided more clarity on the tax slabs for RMG versus non-RMG. Now, BGMI, we all know that it got banned, and the major reasons for its bans were, how the data the data of users was being stored, whether it was being exported or whether it was being stored inside the country. And that was a major reason for the two major game bans that took place. After its relaunch in 2023, they made sure they partnered up with local data networks and started storing data in India and Singapore. They introduced even a parental control system for time and spend caps, and removed, overly violent visuals from the game. They replaced the red blood within the game with a green color. Now, there has been interest in investments so far in the ecosystem. Right? We've seen international players coming in. We've seen domestic companies spending as well. And these are just a few names that are currently trying to establish their strong foothold in the market. Krafton, when initially BGMI was launched, since then until now has invested over 100 million. It has also pledged to invest another 150 in the coming few years. Sony Interactive Entertainment, they introduced India Hero Project, which is, apart from India, it's only in China. We saw Garena signing a memorandum of understanding with the UP government to popularize gaming, esports in the state. So we've covered a lot so far, and I mean, we've seen that there's a general rise in consumption. There's a youth populace that is driving it entirely. We see international and local businesses investing heavily. Where we can grow is, there still lacks that Indian game that needs to come out of the market that does well at a domestic level and as well as international level. So far in the revenue, in the top 5 list of revenues, that for 2023, there was no Indian game. For most downloads in the top 5 list, there was Ludo King for sure. But the quality of games that are being developed at this time, there's huge scope for improvement over there. When it comes to exports and IPs, like I mentioned previously, government is taking interest in creating and exploring how they can create an export economy for hardware or Indian gaming IPs or esports IPs. Now, the introduction of PLI 2.1, which allows domestic and international businesses to set up their manufacturing shops in India and thus get incentivized. We can see that hardware prices for smartphones or consoles or PCs going down in the future. That would have an impact on the domestic consumption as well as create an export opportunity for the entire economy. Yeah, that's it from my side. I mean, the report has, so these were just a few top line overviews that I wanted to give you guys, draw some parallels where we are compared to other markets, mature markets or emerging markets. However, the report goes much more in depth. What we do is, help businesses bring context to their own business in a particular market, whether it be driving revenue, understanding the competitive landscape, due diligence, or understanding the entire game economy. The India 2023 report is currently available for a 25% discount. So you can directly go on our website and go to the report section, that is nicopartners.com. You go to the report section right on the top and you'll find the report over there. Or you can scan this code and use the coupon IGDC 2023 and avail the report. Thank you.